Okay, I think they fixed it. We weren't live for first. Okay. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Welcome to the Dome Discussions podcast, part of Being the No Network. I'm Kyle Besson with Caleb Yacarino, as we are here to recap the Saints' first win of the season. The Saints 26, New York Giants 14 at home too. That just makes it feel so much sweeter. Look, we're 5 weeks into the year. We knew the Saints weren't going to be competitive. We're not going to really be pushing for the playoffs. That was kind of maybe a potential hopeful, definitely not Super Bowl contenders. But they are now on the win column. Here, let's see. Let's go ahead and just kind of start over some things. Is there anything that you kind of want to start us off with, Caleb, about the Saints win this season?
I mean,
First,
this can't like be understated. This was a massive win for so many different reasons. Spencer Rattler got his first win of his career. Kellen Moore got his first win as a head coach, and the Saints got the first win of the season. I mean, there's so many times this season where the Saints were one score away from changing the game, and they could have won the games, except the Seahawks matchup. But this just felt perfect for what this team needed. The Saints came into this game as the favorites, and I didn't think they were going to win. And this is not how I thought the game was even going to go. I thought it was going to be a very much a rushing game, both run defense struggling, a very fast game. But Spencer Rattler was probably my MVP. I mean, besides obviously all the defense, but the MVP of the offense. He was making play after play, felt confident in the pocket. The offensive line didn't give up a sack against this amazing pass rush. And with the run game struggling, also Spencer Rattler really had to make the plays for this team. He looked confident, as I said, and that deep throw to Rashid Shaheed was just amazing.
yeah, I actually want to bring up the running game because the Giants, I think they have, if not the second, the third worst rushing defense in the league. And the Saints ran the ball 30 times, 88 yards on 30 attempts, only 2.9 yards a carry. That's rough, but the Saints were able to find a way to win when they couldn't run the ball. You would have thought, running the ball was the Saints' path to victory. I think when I did my key matchups this week, I talked about the Saints running the ball being their path to victory. Get Alvin Kamara going, get Kendre Miller going, which I want to talk about Kendre Miller and Alvin Kamara because Kendre Miller, 10 carries, Alvin Kamara, 8. Look, they have finally found an even way to get both of these guys the ball. The official stats is Kendre ran the ball 10 times for 41 yards, averaging 4.1 yards a carry. Alvin Kamara was 8 carries, 27 yards, 3.4 yards a carry. Look, I'm not going to make anything about Kendre having more carries. A lot of them came towards to ice the game at the end, right? Really, 18 carries between the two guys is pretty low for what you would have expected. Um, but they found a way to balance their guys, get both guys the ball, healthy legs out there, because that's what we want to see. These guys are both they complement each other very well. We wanted to see Kendre Miller get more touches. He's finally getting those touches, and he's making a lot with them. I mean, we see this guy bouncing off tackles, making things when there's nothing there. That's what we want to see. Now the Saints couldn't run the ball this week. That doesn't mean they won't be able to run the ball next week as very well. I'm just glad that Kendre Miller is finally getting the ball. And you kind of hinted towards it, and I think we should just talk about it. The defense looked great, man. The defense looked awesome. This is what we've finally been hoping to see. Now, actually, hold on. Let me go rephrase because I said the defense looked great. The defense caught a lot of breaks. Okay, they held the Giants to 14 points. The 14 points came off the first and second drive for the Giants. They were scoreless throughout after that. There was a lot of bending, don't break there, and there was a lot of help from the Giants. I mean, the Jackson Dart fumble, I don't know how you put that on the ground. That's just a big mistake by them. And the Saints took advantage of it though, and that's what you want to see. They at least took advantage and made something out of these. It was four, is it 4 or 5 turnovers?
Five.
5 turnovers for the Giants, 2 interceptions, and 3 fumbles. But the Saints were able to fight back, limit the Giants. And look, Jackson Dart was a problem in his legs. We kind of figured that was still going to be a problem, but they were able to limit him. And I kind of hinted towards it. Jackson Dart had a good game last week. And usually, when these rookies have that great breakout game, they come back to earth a little bit. And that's what happened for him this week. But I'm just proud of how hard the Saints fought. That's my thing. They fought and they were able to find a way through the game.
Yeah, and I was going to talk about that because with the defense, because like it sucks to hate or talk about the bads of this game because it's just I love that the Saints won, but you do have to talk about the defense. The pass defense was way better this game. Like I know Cooley McKinstry was getting thrown out a little bit and having wide open receivers against him, struggling against the tight ends, but overall it just felt like a much better performance than what we've seen in the past 4 weeks before this. The pass rush is definitely a massive issue. Jackson Dart had years in the pocket. He could have made the Cam Ward meme again and just stood there still and throw the ball. Like he ran. There's one play Jackson Dart ran up the middle for some reason, and he got stopped at the line of scrimmage. But he could have just stood there and thrown the ball. Like it's a big issue, and that's with Chase Young being out. That's with the Saints not having depth in that area. That's a massive issue, and the run defense is a part of that also. At one point, I felt like Danny Stutzman should have been in the game, because if you're already going to have two linebackers that have been struggling against the pass, might as well have Danny Stutzman in there who could really change the run game of the Giants. But again, as you said, it really felt like even when the Saints had these breaks, they were able to capitalize on it, which bad teams are not able to capitalize on these breaks. So that's definitely a massive positive in this game. But also, you have to understand if the Giants are a better team, I'm not sure the Saints win this game because I'm not sure they get those stops. Jackson Dart is known to be bad under pressure, and that's kind of what we saw. Still, I know the turnovers were massive, but my MVP of this game is on the offense. Like I feel like the offense, Kellen Moore's play calling, and there were some times his play calling wasn't great. Again, the red zone's an issue, but the offense just really felt comfortable against a decent Giants defense. Like this isn't a bad defense, right? That they played. And I saw another thing where like I think people are mad that Kellen Moore didn't go for it when the Saints were on their own 30-yard line in the fourth quarter. And Taysom Hill just like tripped on the 3rd and 1. I get it. You want to close the game out. You're an 0-4 team, but like that's the riskiest thing you could do. I mean, they did it against the Seahawks, and that was a massive mistake. Like, I just don't think that would have been the best decision. And then Kellen Moore decided to go for it on 4th and 5, which was insane. But at least that was in the Giants' part of the field, and it was a great play call. So I think this was just an overall overall good game by the whole team.
Yeah, and I kind of want to revisit something you said because, look, this has to be said. You were talking about the pass rush, and the first thing that blinks in my head, right? The Saints had 1 sack. They should have had 2 sacks. That call on Carl Granderson,
that was horrible.
That was a terrible. Carl Granderson didn't put his body weight on him, didn't go down, didn't hit him high.
He put his hands up as soon as like going to the ground. They reminded me so much, and I don't know if you're gonna remember, and I tweeted it out. When they really changed the pass or this QB sack rules, and like you couldn't drive them down to the field. Clay Matthews got like 6 penalties called on him in a row.
Yeah.
Because he was doing all different things to not let that happen, but they just kept calling it. That's what it felt like, where it was just like, what can I do different to change that? Like there was nothing Carl Grant. It was the Giants' fault for giving up a free rusher. Like what else are you supposed to do? It was so confusing. And I love that Kellen Moore was livid on the sideline. He was yelling. And I know that's another criticism that people have had. Like he doesn't show enough emotion, but that was, hey, that was enough emotion that I've seen. Like that was good.
Yeah, and deservingly too. That was a bad call. That was horrible. A sack right there. Look, and it didn't affect the game. It doesn't change the turnout now. But you criticize these things whenever they happen because it could change the turnout of a game or something like that. So it's not like we just pass over this because it didn't really matter, right? Like I have to do my ups and downs piece later. Like that might be a downs. It's just the inconsistency with thing. And this kind of goes back, and again has nothing to do with this week. Kind of goes back to the Saints trying to do the tush push, and the tush push isn't being called the same way for the Saints as it is for the Eagles. It's things like that where maybe it doesn't affect the game now. But it can affect the game in the future, and that's why you criticize these things and you make a comment on them. Because who knows if Carl Granderson, the Saints were down by, or the Saints were up by 6 this game, and that Carl Granderson sacked kept a drive alive for the Giants. It's things like this that like you can't keep having these happen in the league. And I'm sure there's going to be comments about it from the Saints players later that eventually get them fined because it is a problem where if these things keep going untreated or uncontested, that it becomes a bigger problem. But let's kind of skip over it now, right? The Saints got a win. Let's be in our feel-good moment, and let's talk about another guy who is coming out and showing, and that's Jonas Sinker again, continuously to play good. Look, I wasn't here to talk about him last week, and I was upset about it. I wasn't here for the recap episode on the Bills. I didn't get to talk about it. I want to talk about Jonas Sinker because there's a lot of things. I really liked him coming out, and one of the things that we said is this guy's a really good, strong tackling defensive back. He's secure in his tackles. What you didn't expect to see is being such a polished guy in coverage already so early in his career. He got the interception on Josh Allen last week. He had a few pass deflections here. He had a pass deflection. And he didn't actually. Okay, they didn't credit him with a pass deflection, but he definitely was there in coverage. He had a tackle for a loss, and he had a big fumble recovery as well. I believe that one was on the Wan'Dale Robinson fumble, and he took it back for a few yards. He's just been playing great. The Saints definitely have something in him. He's still showing to be consistent as a tackler. He's still showing to come up in big plays. And look, the Saints were without Justin Reed early in this game, and you would have swore there was a veteran back there with Jonas Sinker. That's how well he's playing. A guy that the Saints definitely hit on, and he's been showing out early.
Oh, 100%. And it's such an important part of his defense that I said it last week, and again, you weren't here, that Jonas Sinker is the best defensive back currently on the Saints. Like, I don't think anyone's outplaying him. And I hope Justin Reed comes back healthy, but also Jordan Howden had a really good game. Like, Jordan Howden was tackling. Yeah, there were some missed tackles, but he had a really good game, and he somehow scored a touchdown, which was insane. But and even talking about the cornerback room, like, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it felt like tackles were being like they're actually tackling. Like, Alontae Taylor had some massive tackles in this game. I know Jonas Sinker missed some, but he was tackling. Kool-Aid was tackling. He felt like it's almost feeling like the tackling is a momentum thing now. Like, it feels like when the Saints do not have the momentum on defense, they're missing tackles. But as you just saw with this game, they are just tackling everyone. And I don't know if that's a mentality thing. Again, I don't know if that's a practice thing, but it really felt like all the tackles were being secured in this game. Um, and then going back to the defensive line, like, Brian Brzee had a massive game. I think just if he's gonna have one game, you see the Giants on the schedule, Brian Brzee is gonna have a good game because he had the fumble against Cam Scatabo. He had the pass deflection on Jackson when Jackson Dart threw it to the side, and then he almost had a sack when he completely beat the offensive lineman. He was honestly the best defensive lineman in pass rush this game. So yeah, there's still the issues with the against the run game. Like, it's going to be an issue, but again, you see the highs of Brian Brzee, and it's just you see such a vital part to the future of this defensive line.
Yeah, and I was gonna do it, and I forgot. Remember when we were doing our preview episode, we were doing our bold predictions. I said I had one, but I completely forgot what it was. That's what it was. I thought Brian Brzee was gonna come out with a sack or two, right? He didn't end up taking down Jackson Dart, but he definitely had an impact on the game. Another player I kind of want to highlight is Chris Olave, and I'm gonna do this every week because they are still trying to get Chris Olave the ball, and it's not always gonna be the most efficient way. He had 11 targets this week, seven receptions for 59 yards, right? So he's averaging less than 10 yards a reception, and that's kind of a weaker number, right? 7 receptions, you're hoping to be around at least 80 or so yards. But he's also protecting his body in one way. It's something I've seen. He's catching these balls and he's going down, especially when he's anticipating a hit, which is something you want to see from him. A guy who's obviously dealt with injuries throughout his career. Look, I still think eventually the Saints will get Chris Olave going. He'll eventually get his 100-yard game, and he'll have more than He'll have more than whatever his yards per catch is right now, right? We'll hopefully get him started. But he's also winning his routes, and he's getting open and being an outlet and more of a safety blanket at this point for Spencer Rattler. So it's not so much that he's refusing to get open. It's just there's not too much separation after the ball. He's not going too much past the hashes. Another guy I want to highlight for the opposite reason is Blake Grupe. Look, Blake Grupe, it's the hard discussion. We're 5 games in. He has 5 misses this season. Yeah, look, he missed a 53-yarder, and you're not going to sit there and tear him down missing a 53-yarder. It's not the biggest thing in the world, but he not immediately responded, but he could have really iced the game at the end, and he went ahead and missed, I believe it was around a 43 to 46-yarder, right? Blake Grupe is struggling. He's missed in 4 out of 5 games this season, 5 total misses on the season. The Saints have to elevate Charlie Smith. You don't have to cut Blake Grupe. That doesn't have to be the case. I know a lot of people would, and I'm not saying I agree or disagree with the move, but you got to bring in some competition for him right now. I mean, he won in camp in a landslide. It wasn't close, right? 100% I understood the decision. He was balling in camp. He was balling in preseason. But he's not doing that now, right? Preseason doesn't always correlate to what's going to happen in regular season. He's struggling right now. The Saints need to bring in some competition at the minimum because Blake Grupe is not playing good right now, and it didn't cost the Saints this week, but it can and has cost them in the past.
I mean, this game should have been 32-14. That's right. It was 26-14. final score?
Yeah. It was
Yeah. So
26-14.
it should have been 32-14. Like these were, and again, I know we're saying that like 52 yards, you have some leeway, but kickers are scoring 68 yarders now. Like it's it's one of those things that if you miss every like you're gonna if you miss every game, I'd rather take a risk on another kicker. And I know Blake Grupe's a captain, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult, but these are the tough conversations you're going to have if you're trying to turn around a bad start to the season. If you're trying to continue on a win, like yes, also Blake Grupe had a tackle, which was insane on the kick return. He
He
spun
threw
like a
his whole
Beyblade.
body.
I think someone said he
His
spun like
whole
a
body
Beyblade.
went.
He was flying on the sideline,
I respect it.
but yeah, I respect it. But I just think those tough conversations definitely have to start. And I don't know if it's Charlie Smith or it's another kicker they bring in. But and again, I know that we just saw from the Falcons they had a kicker and then it brought another kicker in and then it didn't work out. I know he's
Yeah.
still the starter, but it's kind of a risky move just in the middle of the season, but why not? If it's already not great, might as well do it. These are the type of things you just want to do. And then, I mean, yeah, that was like the most negative thing on special teams. But I do want to go back to the positive because I want to keep talking positive and focus on Spencer Rattler again because I think we're seeing some development here, which is wonderful to see. I forget if I said it on the recap for the Bills game. But this feels like not the first time. It really feels like Spencer Rattler's accuracy is finally getting there. There's misses. There's still misses. There's a throw behind Juwan Johnson. There's
Yeah.
throw behind Vele and he caught it. There's still misses. He's definitely not good. But like Spencer Rattler was hitting Chris Olave in stride, hitting Rashid Shaheed in stride. These were really good passes. There was one that was a perfect pass to Cooks. I think it was like a 6-yard gain, but like it
Hmm.
really feels like the accuracy is now finally getting better. And again, it's not perfect. It's not, I'm not even going to say it's good, but it's still better. And again, or not again, but this was the first game Spencer Rattler didn't have that one big miss. Finally, every game we feel like Spencer Rattler had that one big miss. I really don't think he had that miss here. And when the Giants had clamps on the Saints wide receivers and the running game wasn't working at the beginning of the game, Spencer Rattler was still throwing down the field. He was throwing confident passes. Yes, there was one that was a pass interference. I don't know if it was going to end up in that interception, but he was throwing down the field. He just felt more confident in this game. And it really feels like the Saints are building upon their two now this game, these two performances, and next game could be even better. And they're against the Patriots, I'm pretty sure, which is another
Yep.
winnable game. There's a real chance the Saints come out of this 2-4.
Yeah, and look, I want to talk about Spencer Rattler because I said it during the preseason. I'm like, I don't hate the decision to start Spencer Rattler. Obviously, he was the better quarterback in the preseason to me. They were very tight, but he was the better quarterback, and like he's more of a decisive guy. He's more decisive. He's going to make his mind right. And look, if he's the future of the Saints or not, I don't know. I'm not here to make that decision. I said it all through preseason. I'm glad that that's not my decision to make, but he's playing well. And is he fully playing to the point where you say, okay, this is his job? No, right? He's still got to keep playing better and showing and putting up better performances. But I like the Rashid Shaheed throw. Right? That was the first time that we really got to see that. We've been waiting on that. I think everybody's been waiting, biting your nails to see when they get this play action deep shot to Shaheed. We finally got it, and that feels like a big momentum boost for the whole team. Actually, I believe that was the momentum boost. That was when the Saints started to really pull away, was that Shaheed touchdown. And it just took them one play. They finally went out, took the shot, and I'm ecstatic to see it. Uh, Now I kind of want to talk about this one. So there's Sheed touchdown, right? 87 yards. That means the Saints were at their own 13. You talked about special teams. I want to go back to special teams just because the negatives of special teams has kind of been bad. Look, so Blake Groupies missed 2 field goals. The offense started within their own 20, like before their own 20, right? Multiple times this game. And that's because kick return problems,
Oh
issues,
yeah, I forgot about that.
technicalities, right? A bunch of it. That happened like 3 drives in a row. They were within their own 15. That's a problem, right? You have a young quarterback who's got to sit here and he's got to fight 90 yards down the field. And look, they were able to do that this week. You're not going to be able to do that every week. Again, these are problems that the Saints have to work through and get better at, because special teams all season has been rough, right? I don't know if the Saints lose, or actually, I promise you, the Saints don't lose as bad against the Seahawks in Week 3 if half of those problems don't happen, right? But these are drive killers on their own, right? Spencer Rattler starting, he has to go 87 yards down the field. Young quarterback. Now, the offensive line played well this week, but there's still a few penalties, pre-snap penalties. I believe it came out to 7 penalties for the Saints. Still too much. Didn't affect them in the long run. I think it was only 40 yards off of 7 penalties. Let's knock that down to like 4, 5 a game, right? Let's not keep in that 7 to 10 range, right? That's too much. But overall, this was just a better game, and I think the Saints caught a lot of breaks, and that kind of did a lot for them. But towards the end, the defense really came their own, right? They caught a lot of breaks towards the middle of the game after starting the game out real poor. Jackson Dart started like 5 for 5 on the first drive. That ended in a touchdown, and I think he continued that momentum on the next touchdown drive. That was their only points for the rest of the day. Now, they probably should have came away with more points, but either they hurt themselves or the Saints really stepped it up. And you were talking about Kool-Aid McSherry. I think Kool-Aid McSherry took a big jump today, right? Or maybe not a jump, but he played way better. He was able to redeem it. This is a confidence booster, because now Kool-Aid McSherry is going to go into week what are we, 6 now? Week 6 now against the Patriots with a lot of confidence. He's coming off a 2-interception game. One of those interceptions, he probably shouldn't have caught it, right? But he got it. And it was a hell of a play by him, too, because they showed on the broadcast he traveled to go make that play. And that's something that you want to see. That's a veteran move. He didn't just sit there and stay and watch. He went and he made himself involved in a play. And, yeah, he probably shouldn't catch that interception. He'd probably let it just be a 4th down stop. But he got the interception, and it was a big play by him, and it's going to be a confident booster going forward.
Yeah, and there was one play, like, and it honestly is more important to me than the 2 interceptions, because, yeah, the first interception, it was an amazing play, but probably should have hit it down. And then the second interception, Bo Collins just straight up stopped running the route, and it was just it was just a weird play. My favorite play from him was near the end of the game. I think on the last Giants drive, they threw it up to Theo Johnson, and Kool-Aid completely stopped that from happening.
Yep.
I don't know if Kool-Aid makes that play before this week or before those 2 interceptions, honestly. Like, it did feel like, okay, this was the Kool-Aid McKinstry we saw against the Cowboys last year, where it was just that as a confident young corner making play after play, which is, if Kool-Aid has his confidence back and he starts truly playing like that number 1 cornerback, I feel better about that part of the defense. Once again, the pass defense, in my opinion, was decent in this game, and that they've been a source of pain the first couple weeks because of that. But finally, I feel like they're getting their groove. It just, with the defense, I think it just again goes down to the defensive line, and maybe after this win, now Chase Young can return. Like, now this is the Chase Young game next week, because that would be.
You said that. I think we've said that every week.
We've said that a lot, but like, just when Chase Young comes back, that it's because I've said so many times, and now the Saints are not in place to draft Reuben Bain, which is sad, but it's okay. Like, this, if I had to say, oh, the Saints, like, last year the Saints went in the draft, it was kind of they could draft anyone. No. It's an edge rusher. Like, it's only an edge rusher. I don't see any other position. It's an edge rusher. And it's one of those things, like, if you're doing any mock draft, look at edge rush prospects. That's what you're going to need to do, because it is the most glaring issue with this team. And when Chase Young returns, yeah, it's going to be better. But if it's already like this to begin with, Chase Young's going to alleviate it, but it's not going to be great. I feel way better about the future adding another edge rusher. And, like, I hope Chase Young returns soon, because I truly think the Saints can win around 5-6 games if that defensive line just gets things together with how Spencer Rattler's playing right now and how this offensive line did against this the Giants' amazing pass rush. Like, once again, I don't know how they did not let up a sack, and it was because of Spencer Rattler. Also, he ran away from like 3 different potential sacks and made massive plays, but still, it was a 0. I would have, if that, I couldn't even made that my bold prediction. Like, I would have never thought that.
Wait, didn't I say that? Wasn't that crazy? Wait, I did. I said that in my bold prediction.
0 sacks.
Someone said 0 sacks. I went back on it and I said, let's say like 1 or 2.
I forgot about that.
I'm a prophet. Hold on, I forgot all about that.
You
You
got you
know,
got you got pressure to change that. Me and Drew gave you looks.
hey, I got peer pressure to say when I said the Saints give up no sacks this week. You guys all looked at me and called me crazy, so I changed it. You know what? I'm giving myself a pat on the back. It was a total guess because I forgot what I really wanted to say then. But I do want to go back to the pass rush conversation because we're talking about Chase Young coming back and how that would hopefully uh, elevate the Saints to pass rush. Look, I've seen Cameron Jordan in coverage a little too many times than I like. Manning up Cam Scatterbo. He's a great pass rusher, but he can't do exactly off that 3-4 what Chase Young would be able to do in coverage. Because I every time I saw Cameron Jordan back into coverage and try to have to man up and keep up with Cam Scatterbo, I got nervous. It didn't end up biting the Saints too often, but that's another thing where
It's a
it's
little
like,
scary. It's a little
yeah,
scary. We saw because I think we're also burned from last week when Carl Granderson was in coverage, and then the Bills scored a touchdown because it was just a miscommunication. And Granderson was in coverage also, and you're like, I'm a little scared of this. Like it's a little worrisome. But yeah, the defense. If there was like one, I, removing the special teams because also the punting wasn't good. It was a bad punting day also. Like special teams group is definitely, and I've said this so many times. I truly think the special teams group is the reason the Saints have won at least or lost at least two of these games. Like it has not been good enough. And but if I'm taking them out of the conversation, the only reason the Giants were in this game was the defensive line, the Saints defensive line because they couldn't stop the run. And I know they've got Scatterbo to fumble, but they really couldn't stop the run. They couldn't contain Jackson Dart, and they couldn't get any pass rush. It was definitely just,
I need you to continue.
it's just definitely like everything going at once that it's not, it's a recipe for disaster because we saw it last year and it's the reason the Saints lost some games last year. So I just think that it's going to be something the Saints go into the offseason as the biggest focus, which is kind of hilarious because fixing the run defense and fixing the trenches were a focus of Kellen Moore going into this season and going into the offseason when he was hired. And I truly think they were able to do it on the offensive line. There's still improvements that need to be made, but if they did it on the offensive line last year, I have zero doubt they are drafting an edge rusher or defensive tackle because Peter was very good in the next draft.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about the run because I actually looked at the base numbers at first and I was like, yeah, the Saints kind of got rough on run defense again. And look, the Giants came away with 136 rushing yards, averaging 4.7 yards a carry. It's like, yeah, that's kind of rough. But look, Jackson Dart was the most of that. So you see, Cam Scatterbo averaged under 4 yards a carry. Devin Singletary averaged under 4 yards a carry. It was 3.9 for Scatterbo and 3.3 for Devin Singletary. It's really Jackson Dart who averaged nearly 8 yards a carry. That's a problem. And this has been a problem for the Saints for years, right? You can switch defensive coordinators, you can switch everything. It has continued to be a problem for the Saints. It was a few times I was looking at the screen. I'm like, why are we not putting a spy on there yet, right? Like it was a problem early. He only ended up with 7 carries for 55 yards. 55 yards is rough. He only ran the ball 7 times, and the Saints actually did get a little bit better. It was still defensive line that kind of picked it up towards the end. But most of the run game for the Giants did come from Jackson Dart, and they weren't really as efficient when running with their running back. So you kind of give the defensive line a little bit of leeway there to be like, you know what, they kind of picked it up. It wasn't as bad. Now, you look at the win and you're like, did the Saints win the game or did the Giants lose? That's always a dumb conversation that you have to have, but it is true, right? The Giants kind of got in their own way a bit. I mean, again, I'm going to talk about the Jackson Dart fumble because that was ridiculous. But
It was horrible.
look, that when you look past that, the Saints players made plays, and that's where you look at it, right? The Jackson Dart fumble, absolutely terrible, goofy, right? But outside of that, Demario Davis forced the fumble on Wan'Dale Robinson. He made the play. Brian Brzee made a play on Cam Scatterbo. Kool-Aid McKinstry made the play, ran all the way across the field for that interception. He made that turnover. And then when the tight end stopped, or I think it was a wide receiver actually stopped running his route, Kool-Aid was still on that, right? If he runs that route, Kool-Aid probably stops him short of the lines anyways. He made a play. So there's going to be the conversation of, did the Giants hurt themselves? And, maybe they did, but the Saints players made plays and they stepped up. And that's when you look at what a good team is, right? You look at first, they protected themselves. They didn't make mistakes. They are still the better team in the sense of they didn't make their own mistakes. And then their players stepped up and made plays. So I know there's going to be a conversation later or some. And yes, Jackson Dart did simply throw the ball on the ground himself. I don't know what that was. That was pretty momentum changing in itself. But the Saints players stepped up and made plays, and you got to give credit where credit's due. They did what they had to do to get the win.
Yeah, and we talked about it, but the Saints also took advantage of those plays made and they scored. It ended up in field goals, not really touchdowns as much, but they did take advantage of it. They did score. Again, with that conversation, in my opinion, it's also if bad teams do not take advantage of those turnovers. I mean, in the Dennis Allen era, it felt like the Saints made a massive play on defense, and the offense couldn't do anything. And they ended up punting it. So I think when you obviously those teams had better records besides last year. But this year it feels like they're taking advantage of those plays when they are made, which is all you want from the offense. The defense makes plays. Even when they are struggling, the offense needs to take advantage of those plays.
Yeah, I just looked at my side here. The Saints forced 5 straight turnovers. I didn't know it was 5 straight. It started with let's see, who was the fumble? Is this the who fumbled first? Okay.
I think Wanda
Uh
Robinson fumbled, or was it Darius Slayton?
I'm looking. It was Darius. So the Darius Slayton fumble started the spew of fumbles. All right, it went Darius Slayton. I believe it was then the Jackson Dart fumble, and then the Cam Scatable fumble, and then interception. And it was 5 straight turnovers forced by the Saints defense. And even towards the end of the game, it leads to a 6th turnover because those turnover and downs, right? So I mean, look, the Saints defense stepped up. Again, I said this is like, yes, there's a few problems, and the first 2 drives did not look good, but they stepped up. And this team is fighting. Look, they fought against the Bills. They fought week 1. They fought week 2. Even in week 3, when they lost, I can't even remember the score. They lost by over 30 points, right? They were down 21-0, and then eventually they stepped up, and they were still playing hard towards the last whistle. This is a rebuilding team. What you want to see is these guys fight, show grit, show that they're going to pick themselves up and continue to fight. And that's what we're seeing from this Saints team. And that's why you're going to see them develop. And they're going to pull away some wins this season that nobody thinks they can win, right? I can't think of a team right now, but there's going to be a Buccaneers team coming to New Orleans that's probably got a pretty good record and a pretty good hold in the NFC South. And the Saints have a good chance of winning that game. Now, I'm not saying they are or won't, but they're going to fight, and they're going to come away with wins over good teams because the way they continue to fight. And these guys are all developing. A lot of young players. We're talking about Quincy Riley. He came in. He had a couple pass deflections. Jonas Sanker came in. Big game. A lot of young guys stepping up. Kendre Miller finally becoming the running back that we knew he could be. He just had to stay healthy. And that's the thing with these guys is they're going to continue to develop over the season. And now that these games that they lost week 1, week 2, week 3, they're going to start becoming wins down the season. Do I think the Saints are going to go on a streak from here? Probably not, right? But they're going to fight, and they're going to keep these games close, and that's all you ask for them.
Yeah, and now again, this win is so important because a losing streak is always bad for a head coach in general, and specifically a first-time head coach trying to keep these players confident. So just getting a win this early in the season, when, I mean, we look back at and I know Dan Campbell is a good coach in the NFL, but I think he didn't get a win with the Lions in the first year until like week 9 or 10. Like it took a while. I'm pretty sure I saw that last week, but so getting a win this early into the season is extremely important. And I don't think this team is going to be, as you said, fighting for the playoffs and a 9-win team that could somehow win the division. But, and I also don't hate that, because that's the other conversation. It's like, okay, but would I rather the Saints lose because of draft position? I don't know. This is a weird draft class, kind of like last year. It's starting to become a weird draft class. So I don't really care as much. I want the head coach to be confident going into next year. I want the players that are still on the team going into next year be confident about going into next year. Even how bad it is going to be this season, they still have confidence, because that's all you're going to want to see. If there's one thing you come away from this season with Kellen Moore, if he can keep this team together, fighting for every game, that is the biggest win you want from a first-time head coach and the youngest coach in the NFL.
And that kind of goes to one thing you were talking about earlier. You were talking about how everybody's rallying to the ball when the ball carries. The defense is playing fast and hard. And, there's time, like I said, early in the game, you're down, I think it was 14-3 at one point because they had the 2 touchdowns. Saints responded with a field goal. Right? That's pretty momentum killing right there. But they stayed ready. They stayed prepared, and they rallied all the way back. The Saints won 26-14. 23 unanswered points for the Saints. 23 unanswered points for the Saints. They limited the Giants from their first two scoring drives. No points after that, right? They played hard. They didn't think, oh, it's 14-3, it's over. Obviously, no team in NFL is going to do that, but they kept the spirit in there and they stayed, right? They were down 21-0 to the Seahawks week 3. It was terrible. It was ugly, and it looked like they quit. And look, some people will say some players did quit on that game, right? But you still saw Demario Davis playing hard. You saw Quincy Riley forced a fumble, and they're down by 30 at this point, and the team's celebrating together. That these guys are going to play hard and they're going to continue to fight. And look, I'm not saying the Saints are going to come out and win 7 games this season, right? That 7 games right now seems pretty like a difficult goal. But if they continue to play and develop, and these young guys stay confident in a game like, again, Kool-Aid McKinstry, where he's had some troubling games, he was rough, but he's coming out with 2 interceptions now. Does this bring momentum into going to next week? Look, momentum's a really big thing in football. And it's mostly for these guys confident. They got to stay confident. They got to try things. They got to trust themselves. And that's what a game like this is going to do for these guys because they fought and they stayed in it. And Kool-Aid McKinstry had a good game. Jonas Sanker had a good game. Kendre Miller showed glimpses of promise. And look, we haven't talked much about Spencer Rattler. I think Spencer Rattler had a good game too. I know you did. I didn't really say much about Spencer Rattler. He looked solid. I think most of his yards for the game came off the 87 Rashid Shaheed touchdown, but that's a play that he made that the offense set up, and Kellen Moore had the confidence in him to take that shot, and he finally had the confidence in himself to take that shot, and it was a big play. It was momentum changing, and I enjoy watching this team. Despite the week 3 game, okay, maybe not that one. Every other game, I have watched this team fight and stay close, and it's been entertaining games against Buffalo, against Arizona, against the 49ers, and now again your first one against the Giants. They have stayed and they've competed, and it's entertaining games to watch. This isn't the Saints last year where these games were not fun to watch. It was boring. You weren't hoping for much because that team last year had to make the playoffs. They didn't have a lot of young guys to sit there and watch and hope they develop. They have that now, and we're getting to see these glimpses of promise, this hope, and this is a lot. This is a lot of promise to go see next season. They still got a lot of games to go this season, right? You still got 12 more games to go this season. So look, we're watching this team for another 12 games. There's a lot that can happen in 12 games. And I'm hoping the Saints do make it competitive. I don't care about draft picks. I'll be honest with you. I am not somebody that's going to say, oh, I hope the Saints go 0-12 from this point forward, or probably 2-10. Hope you beat the Falcons, right? But I'm not somebody that's going to care about that. Draft picks are going to come, but they only come from good scouting. You can have the number 1 overall pick, and you pick a bad player, and then what did that do for you? Absolutely nothing. So I am not one for draft picks. You got to hope your scouting team could come out and pull a draft like they pulled out this year, where you got a lot of guys who are making immediate impact, and then you win games. And now your guys are confident going into next year, and you're competing at a higher level. That's me. I know some people are more for draft picks, but I think the Saints – go and win as many games as you can this season. Keep your guys ready and keep them hyped, and then just do your job as a scouting team and get the proper guys in the building for next year.
Yeah, and I completely agree. There might be another Seahawks type game somewhere this season. It's something that just happens. But I really think the Saints are going to fight in every single game. They're going to pick some wins up here and there. And I am more of a draft guy, but I'm in the same ballpark as you. I really don't care about where the Saints draft in this draft as much. Yes, a top pick is amazing, but I've talked about it, the edge rush class so many times. It's getting old, but there's like 7 players that can be drafted in the first round. So I don't care. There's so many needs on this team. If the Saints go a different direction, the Saints go a different direction. But I'd rather the Saints have momentum going into the next season because, let's be real, I doubt they're drafting a quarterback. This would be a different conversation if there was a Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams at the top of the draft, where I'm just like, okay, tank. Why are we winning games? That's not this draft. So I'm okay with them winning games, having some momentum, getting more depth pieces. And look, if 2027 is the draft, you get your quarterback, then I don't care about winning in 2026. But that's a different story.
And I mean, look, the quarterback might be on the roster, and that's what these conversations go. Because Spencer Rattler is developing right in front of us, right? He had 4 touchdowns all last year, 5 interceptions in 8 games, 7 games, I believe, something like that. Like, he's looking way better this year. I believe he has 6 touchdowns in 5 games and the 1 interception. It's something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
He's playing a lot better. And that's, again, we're seeing him develop, and he looks like a different quarterback now than he was last year completely. and
And
he's still doing.
I was more of a Tyler Shuck guy too. Like I was the resident Tyler Shuck guy going into the season where I was like, why not just start the rookie? I don't get starting Spencer Rattler, but there is zero reason in my mind that the Saints should put in Shuck at this point because first thing, yeah, it's still early in the season, but there is no evidence that Spencer Rattler will be the reason this team loses it maybe one game this season, two games, but there's no evidence it's going to be a consistent thing. He hasn't been the reason so far. Yes, once again, there is missed throws which are horrible. There are bad things in his tape in his game that it feels like he's starting to fix. And if he keeps work, we saw last year at its worst, Spencer Rattler still developed over the season. We saw Spencer Rattler develop from last season. It looks like we're seeing Spencer Rattler develop his accuracy throughout the season. So I have belief he's going to keep improving. I don't see the ceiling right now. Like I don't see where it's going to stop right now. So I'm not giving. If I'm Kellen Moore, I'm not giving up on that. There's no reason to give up on that. And it sucks because of how good this past draft class is looking like it's going to be and you have Tyler Shuck, the second round pick, not playing, it's a little bit of a stain on that draft class, which sucks. But I still understand why they did it. I understand why they're not playing him, but also Spencer Rattler's playing well enough to not play Tyler Shuck.
Yeah, and one of the things, obviously, you talk about Twitter scouts all you want, right? But there has been a lot of praise for him where it's like Tyler Shuck is a starting quarter, and you're seeing a lot of that. But I mean, we could go to someone who you really respect, right? Robert Sala's like a praise for Spencer Rattler was crazy. He's going to be a household name by the end of the year by one of the NFL's most respected NFL defensive coordinators, right? Or defensive minds, at least. That is big praise. And Spencer Rattler is doing things that's impressing NFL scouts, NFL, all these guys. He's impressing. He's being impressive, and he's taking care of the ball. He's not putting it in harm's way, like the strip sack. I think it was week 4. Like he's had a
I think
couple
there was
strip
two
sacks.
strip sacks. I
Yeah,
think even last week there was one.
and I think it was fighting for the end of the game that was
Mm.
kind of over, at least last week, right? Or yeah, okay, but you have to make a play. He probably would have been. It wouldn't have happened in a situation. But I'm not going to do these. But what all these whatevers, right? He had a strip sack a couple times, but he's really not putting the ball in harm's way, and he's doing what he needs to try to win these games. And yes, I'm going to comment on the fact that he's missed a few of these, right? I don't think Spencer Rattler has absolutely run away with the quarterback competition, not at all, because those misses have happened, and because the Saints are 1-4 right now. But he's also not done anything to say, hey, throw Tyler Shuck in. I'm not showing. He's showing development. He's showing a good enough play. Now I'm waiting to see when he takes that step, and he does either take that lead. Because if the Saints end up being 1-8 towards the season, and Spencer Rattler is still here in this awkward area where he's not playing bad enough to be benched, but he's not good enough to win you games, then you see what you have in Tyler Shuck. And I like what you were saying about how this draft class has looked pretty promising. But the Tyler Shuck pick kind of stains it a little bit with him not playing yet. Look, I love the idea of people hate that the Browns took Shadir Sanders and Dalen Gabriel. Look, you throw that dart at the dartboard until you get the right one. The quarterback is the most important position in the NFL, and you need to find your guy one way or another. If it's taking multiple quarterbacks in one draft, if it's grabbing every young quarterback you can, and heck, Hunter Deckers could have been that guy, right? You pick up all these young quarterbacks and see who can develop into your quarterback. So I don't think the Tyler Shuck pick's bad at all. Especially because he hasn't played yet. We don't know what he is, right? But look, if Spencer Rattler continues to play and develop and eventually runs away with that job, and we never see what Tyler Shuck is for the Saints, you know, that I don't know if that still makes the pick a bad pick because you found your quarterback, and yeah, look, you lost the chance of drafting a second round player, but you take keeping that shot until you finally find your guy. And if it's Tyler Shuck, it's Tyler Shuck. If it's Spencer Rattler, it's Spencer Rattler. If it's none of them, you just got to find out.
And that second round pick could have been Isaiah Foskey. Like we don't that they could have just been like a player that and this scouting staff and this coaching staff, it feels like they know what they like what to do well in the draft. So I will say I wouldn't think it would have been an Isaiah Foskey type player, but it could have been, and that would have been the one bad part of this draft class. And it's going back to the quarterback conversation. It's the same reason why I said I don't know when I said it in the last episode or the one before, but I said going into next season, that's why I'm against drafting a quarterback once again 2 years in a row I was against drafting a quarterback. It should be a Spencer Rattler, Tyler Shuck quarterback competition next offseason. Because if Spencer Rattler doesn't make the improvements, that we think he possibly will, then that's when Tyler Shuck conversation starts happening and he shows improvements and you do start him next season and that's what happens. But if Spencer Rattler does make the improvements he needs to make, that is a at least a top 15 quarterback in the NFL, and you'll have an upgraded roster from the draft and free agency. So then you can actually see, okay, this is what we're going to do. And hey, then you have that conversation in 2027. You have that conversation about Chuck. But there is zero reason in my mind that Spencer Rattler should not, Spencer Rattler should not be benched. Spencer Rattler should not be benched this season in general for me. I don't care what the record is. I think he should play out the season because also it looks really bad if you bench a quarterback giving his all and also not the reason you're losing games. And if this team's around Spencer Rattler, it looks really bad to bench him, even if you're trying to see what you have with Shuck. That's why I think you just kind of go into next season, and that's a whole nother conversation. But Spencer Rattler has shown enough in the first 5 games of the season to let him cook because he's improving.
Yeah, look, I don't know if I can fully agree with you on that. Like I said earlier, if he ends up 1-8, 1-9, I do think you eventually see what you have in Tyler Shuck. But if the Saints are, let's say, down the line, they're 4-6 or 3-6, maybe even, or kind of in that mid range where he's losing games, but the path to .500 isn't that far off. I think Spencer Rattler does get to keep developing and showing, and that's if he's playing the same way he is now plus development, right? I'm not saying if he's throwing 2 touchdowns a game, or I'm sorry, 2 interceptions a game, that we're like, well, yeah, let's keep letting him develop, right? There's obviously a way where he could get benched. But if he's simply just playing how he is now and the Saints are eventually 1-9, I do think you see what you have Tyler and Shuck this season, because I think you want an idea before you go into the offseason this time of who your quarterback is going to be next year. You don't want a quarterback competition to roll from one season to another and continue, right? You want to find out who your quarterback is. But I do think we talked enough about the quarterback. I know there's a lot to say about quarterback. And look, I think we're wrapping this up soon. But for what it is, the Saints played great. The Saints played good. Okay, they say the Saints played good. They got lucky a little bit, but the guys made plays. They went out there and they took a win. And they were favorites. They came in as a favorite, so they didn't steal a win this time around. They were expected to win, and they did what they were expected, and that's all you can ask. Now they're going to go in. They're actually going to be home next week against New England, and you're going to have to show that you can learn from your losses. You got to win. Bring that momentum in. Do it again. Drake May, another young quarterback, right? This is a pretty veteran defense that has now got a lot of younger guys joining in, right? Your secondary is full of players on rookie contracts now if Justin Reed's to be out next week, right? You're going to have Jonas Sinker, Jordan Howden, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Alontae Taylor, Quincy Riley, right? There's not one veteran guy with a second contract on your secondary right now. And they're going to be tested against one of the NFL's young rising quarterbacks. Let's see them take the momentum that they got from this week, bring it into next week. And if you come out 2-4, and then I think you go against the Buccaneers, is it the Buccaneers after?
I have no clue.
I'm actually going to look it up right now. I believe they play.
I think it is.
It's the Bears. Oh, right.
Dennis Allen revenge game.
Yeah, it's the Dennis, and it's again another young quarterback, and that's going to be they're going to face a bunch of young quarterbacks. They got a young secondary, so you got to hope that your veterans can step up because, look, it could get real ugly with a bunch of young guys. But they held Jackson Dart mostly in check after those first 2 drives, and I would hope that they can make those proper adjustments and do it again going forward. But like I said, play with the momentum, continue with what you have right now, stay home, beat New England, and then, we're talking about a different Saints team at that point.
100% agree.
All right, but are we good to wrap it up now?
Yep, I'm good.
All right. I see we had 60 viewers watching. That's awesome. So, hey, appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you guys join us Friday, where it would be a recorded episode going up on YouTube, where we could preview the Saints versus Patriots game. You guys have a good one.